Hello, welcome to our Ability Skills Knowledge Fraternity. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining and stay with us till the end. Once again, I am Arshia Kainat, host and CEO and Management Controller in Ability Skills Knowledge Fraternity. Firstly, I want to say about today's free webinar. Today's webinar is workable for those who lose their confidence, did not trust, and have suspect on own self. I hope today's webinar will be effective who are struggling with own personality. Every day some new participants join with us, so I have to be give little concept about ability, skills, knowledge fraternity. What is Ask Fraternity? Ask Fraternity stands for Ability, Skills, Knowledge Fraternity. It is an online platform which aims to enhance the skills of the youth living across the world. It promotes the talent of the humans and also provide earning platform. ASKF also offers free international webinars, workshops and paid short courses. Its origin in Pakistan, founded by Dr. Aksar Ubani and Mr. Zain Khan as a president. Our collaborative partners are Go Study, Global International from China, and Right Vision Training Academy Center UK. Motto of Ask Fraternity: creating new leaders by nurturing and promoting the talent of common people is the main purpose of Ask Fraternity. Its slogan is sometimes choosing a different path from others does not mean isolating yourself, it means you know who are you. I am warmly welcoming in you all. Today we are presenting the webinar on English communication, how to become effective with speaker Ronald S. Lamata. So let's start our program. Please give a warm welcome. I am warmly welcoming in you all. Today we are presenting the webinar on English communication, how to become effective with speaker Ronald S. Lambda. So let's start our program. Please give a warm welcome to Ronald S. Lambda.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Arshia, Kainat, the host, and also to the ASKF family, the Ability, Skills, and Knowledge Fraternity. Thank you so much for having me in this webinar. So, I am Ronald S. Lamata, a licensed professional teacher from the Philippines. I am also a college instructor. I am based in Zamboanga City. And yes, I'm also a learner, an educator, and your presenter for this evening in the Philippines. And hi, hello to the rest of the world. So now we are going to talk about communication. Okay. Before we start and discuss English communication, let us first understand communication. I know many of you here attending this webinar already knew more about communication and its basics. So please use this as some kind of refresher. Okay. You may also share your thoughts in the comment section or chat box so other attendees, like the student participants, will also gain more knowledge while reading your ideas. Now, communication is a process, okay? So, communication is a process. This happens when a message is passed on from one party to another. It is the flow or transfer of a message from a party called the source to another party called the receiver. Now, the message may be in the form of information, idea, okay, feeling, opinion, observation, perception, insights, falsity, or truth. Now, the manner by which such a process is done varies depending on the interplay of the elements. For instance, the approach employed by one communicator differs from that of the another. All right? Now, there cannot be exactly the same reaction from two persons, even though the stimulus is similar, meaning to say that the communication is a distinct art. All right, so meaning to say, if you're even if you are communicating and having the same topic, you cannot expect the same reaction for the two parties. All right. Now, um, still, we are going to define the communication. Okay. To begin our study of communication theories, we turn first to the task of defining communication. And communication is not easy to define. All right. Now, according to Theodore Clevinger Jr., he noted that the continuing problem in defining communication for scholarly or scientific purposes stems from the fact that the verb to communicate, okay, is well established in the common lexicon, and therefore it is not easily captured for scientific use. Indeed, it is one of the most overworked term in the English language. Scholars have made many attempts to define communication, but establishing a single definition has proved impossible and may not be very fruitful. Okay, so if you are going to talk about the meaning of communication, there can be so much meaning. All right, that is why Theodore Clevinger Jr. Has said that it is really a continuous problem in when we are talking of defining what is communication. Okay, now let's talk about the communication process. The communication is a two-way process wherein the message, in the form of ideas, thoughts, feelings, opinions, is transmitted between two or more persons with the intent of creating a shared understanding. Okay, simply an act of conveying intended information and understanding from one person to another is called as communication. All right, even when we talk to ourselves, that is also considered as communication, communicating to oneself. Okay, the term communication is derived from the Latin word communis, which means to share. You see, when we derive the word communication from the Latin word communis, because we wanted to share ideas, we wanted to share thoughts, and sometimes we also share that thoughts to ourselves. Okay, so when we talk to ourselves, we are still communicating. Effective communication, ladies and gentlemen, is when the message conveyed by the sender is understood. Once again, it is understood by the sender and by the receiver rather, which the sender sends the message, of course, in exactly the same way as it was intended. But even though you sent the message and then it wasn't understood by the receiver, still that is still communication because there is a process. Okay. Now, um, let's go to the next slide. Okay. So in here you can see the uh, communication process. Still, the communication is a dynamic process. Okay, that begins with a conceptualizing of ideas by the sender, who then transmits the message through a channel to the receiver, who in turn gives the feedback in the form of some message or signal within the given time frame. Thus, there are seven major elements of communication process. We have the sender, the encoding, the message, the channel, receiver. We also have the coding, and of course, the feedback. Okay. And then on the right side, you can see the noise. So we will talk one by one as to what are the meaning of uh, these elements. Okay. Now, the sender. The sender or the communicator is the person who initiates the conversation and has conceptualized the idea that he intends to convey it to others. Okay. So next, we will have encoding. The sender begins with the encoding process wherein he uses certain words or nonverbal methods such as symbols, signs, what else? Body gestures, to translate the information into a message. The sender's knowledge, skills, perceptions, background competencies, and the rest of the skills has a great impact on the success of the message. Okay, now let's talk about message. Once the encoding is finished, the sender gets the message that he intends to convey. All right. Now, the message may be written, oral, symbolic, or nonverbal, such as body gestures, silence, sighs. When you say, for example, when you are disappointed, you just say, in Filipino, we say, hi. Okay, and then sounds, etc., or any other signals that triggers the response of a receiver. Okay, so moving on, we have communication channel. The sender chooses the medium through which he wants to convey his message to the recipient. It must be selected carefully in order to make the message effective and correctly interpreted by the recipient. The choice of medium depends on the interpersonal relationships between the sender and the receiver, and also on the urgency of the message being sent. Okay, so it may be oral, virtual, written, sound gesture. Those are some of the commonly used communication medium. Okay, now we also have the receiver. The receiver is the person for whom the message is intended or targeted. He tries to comprehend it in the best possible manner, such as the communication objective is attained. Now, the degree to which the receiver decodes the message depends on his knowledge of the subject matter, experience, trust, and relationship with the sender. So, say for example, um, Miss, the president of the ASKF, actually, she is a doctor, and she is going to talk to me about medical stuff. And then I am not really well versed with medical terminology, so it's like my nose is going to bleed because of all the words that she is going to use when she is going to talk to me, because I don't have really the knowledge. Although I received the message, but the problem is I will be having a hard time decoding what is that message. Okay, that is why it is said, even though you are already receiving the message, thus the receiver needs to have a proper knowledge of what the topic is all about, so that they will arrive with the same idea, and they will be having a clear communication. Okay, later on we will also know, or we will also learn, how will we be able to know if the communication is successful. Okay, if there is an effective communication. Okay, we will go with that later on. Because we need first to identify, or we need first to examine the different parts of communication for us to be able to communicate properly. Or say for example, you are having a hard time in terms of giving instructions to your people, or to your students, or to your colleagues. Maybe there is something wrong with how you give the instructions. Maybe they did not understand it clearly, or maybe there are barriers. So we will talk of more of it later on. Okay, so next, oh sorry, next we have decoding. Okay, here the receiver interprets the sender's message and tries to understand in the best possible manner. An effective communication occurs only if the receiver understands the message. So once again, guys, even though you are not knowledgeable of the topic, so that there is still communication. But an effective communication occur if the receiver understands the message. So we are not just going to blah 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 and then say whatever you want, most especially to our students, or to our colleagues, or to our staff, if you will not arrive with the same idea. Always remember to use jargons or words that will let them feel that you are going to their level. Okay, most especially for us teachers. For us teachers, we should always understand that we should level ourselves to our students comprehension. Okay, for them to be able to understand our instructions. Okay, because using words that may not be clear for our students, we still need to what do you call this, to explain further the instructions that we are going to give them, most especially in giving exams or instructions. Okay, so that is decoding. So slide 13, we have the feedback. Okay, so what is feedback? Ideas, response, opinion, just like in the caricature. So the feedback is the final step of the process. Okay, that ensures the receiver has received the message. So you see, if the receiver receives the message, meaning to say there will be always be a feedback. Okay, and interpreted it correctly as it was intended by the sender. It increases the effectiveness of the communication as it permits the sender to know the efficacy of his message. That is why, di ba, teachers, we always ask, okay, these are the instructions. Is it clear? Or did you understand? Did you got it? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Okay, so there will always be feedback. Okay, there will be no more questions. None, sir. Oh, I have a question. Okay, so it is really very important for us to ask them if they really understood. If not, then allow them to speak and ask for further improvements in the communication. Now, let's proceed. So once again, sender encoding, message channel receiver, uh, decoding. We also have feedback. And we also have here noise. Okay, so note that the noise shows the barriers in communication. So we have lots of barriers. There are chances when the message sent by the sender is not received by the recipient. So uh, to give you an example of a barrier, you say for example I am talking to you, okay, just like this one in the webinar. I'm talking to you in the webinar, and then suddenly there's a power interruption in your area. What? I did not understand what was the uh the 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 speaker was talking, because it went on a power outage, or sometimes my internet connection might be slow, all right, or I am not understanding the words that the speaker is saying, because he is not really well versed in English or something like that. Or maybe I cannot understand his or her accent, so something like that. Okay, so sometimes what we can do is to practice well in terms of our speaking. Okay, because the only way that we can improve ourselves is also to practice. All right, but also other kinds of barriers is the thing that we call noise pollution. Let's say, for example, we are talking, okay, face to face talking, and then there are so many noises outside your house. Dogs are barking, or maybe when you are having your online classes and you are on a public utility vehicle or in the jeep, and then there are horns outside. Oh, the noise pollution. So those are actually barriers that we call. Okay, so yes, noise, communication barriers. Okay, so moving on. So we have the types of communication. We have verbal, non-verbal communication. We also have written, listening. We also have visual. Okay, so let's talk about verbal communication first. Verbal communication occurs when we engage in speaking with others. It can be face to face, over telephone, via Skype or Zoom, and many more. Okay, some verbal engagements are informal, such as chatting with a friend over coffee or in the office kitchen, while others are more formal, such as scheduling meeting. Regardless of the type, it is not just about the words, it is also about the caliber and complexity of those words. Now, how we string those words together to create an overaching message, as well as the intonation. Okay, so what do you mean by intonation? These are the pitch, the tone, the cadence, okay, that we use when we talk. And of course, when occurring the face to face, while the words are very important, they cannot be separated from the non-verbal communication. Okay, so sometimes when we talk, our hands are also moving, and then our eyes, our facial expressions, something like that. All right, so let's continue. Now, we also have the non-verbal communication. Okay? Non-verbal communication. What we do while we speak often says more than the actual words. Non-verbal communication includes facial expressions, posture, eye contact, hand movements, and touch. Okay? So, how when do we use this? So sometimes when actually psychology students or maybe the psychologist use this nonverbal communication, okay? Or sometimes when your mother is calling and then he is very angry and when he uses his pouted mouth to give instructions, okay? So you really know that nonverbal communication and the use of that pouted lips, okay? That your mother is very angry already and you know what to do already. Okay? So, for example, if you're engaged in a conversation with your boss about your cost saving idea, it is important to pay attention to words, to their words actually, and their nonverbal communication. Okay? Your boss might be in agreement with your idea verbally. Okay? So, mean to say, when he or she is talking, he or she agrees with you, okay? But their nonverbal cues like avoiding eye contact with you, the sighing, making like this, something like that, and then scrunch up face, it indicates something different, okay? So sometimes what we are saying doesn't match with what we are doing, okay? Something that is the idea of it. Now, written communication, whether it is an email, a memo, before we just write, when we say written communication, what we think of is the writings using the pen and paper, okay? But in today's modern world, it's very different, ladies and gentlemen. Whether it is an email, a memo, a report, a Facebook post, a tweet, a contract, okay? All forms of written communication have the same goal to disseminate information in a clear and concise manner. Though that objective is often not achieved because, in fact, poor writing skills often lead to confusion and embarrassment. And it is very true, guys. This is very true. And even potential legal jeopardy. Okay, so the play of words. One important thing to remember about written communication, especially in the digital age, is the message lives on, perhaps in perpetuity. Okay, so mean to say it will continue. Okay, it's not actually, what do we call this? Just like the paper, it will easily be crumpled or just thrown away. But in the modern times, it can be stored forever. Okay, just be sure that your account will not be hacked. So be careful on clicking some links. There are two things to remember. First, write well. Okay, poorly constructed sentences and careless errors make you look bad. Do not worry about this one about writing digitally, ladies and gentlemen, because there are lots of applications. One of them is Grammarly, that will be able to help you in terms of your writing. Okay, because you just install that in your computer or maybe in the Google Chrome as an add-on, and then it will help you write, okay, and correct your writings. And sometimes there are many other ways as to how to make your writings very good. Okay, so actually the digital age is more of an AI staff. They are actually the ones doing the writings and making your life easier. But sad to say, um, it's not actually, yeah, it's helping us, but in terms of our learnings are really degrading when we use more of these AIs. Okay, if we rely on the AIs, so what if the AIs are not working, if we don't have internet, so we cannot write clearly, or we cannot write well? So that is for us to ask ourselves. Okay. Also, second, ensure the content of the message is something you want to promote or to be associated with for the long haul. Okay? So, those are the two things that we need to, what do you call this? That we need to see. All right? Now, let's continue. Next slide. Listening. Okay. Listening. The act of listening does not often make its way into the list of type of communication because they say, oh, when you just listen, there is no feedback or something like that. So it's not actually effective communication. So it's not, okay? It's actually part of the, what do you call this? It is actually part of the types of communication. Why? Okay, I'll explain it to you why. The act of listening does not often make its way into the list of the type of communication. Active listening, however, is perhaps one of the most important types of communication because if you cannot listen to the person sitting across from us, we cannot effectively engage with them. Think about a negotiation. Part of the process is to assess what the opposition wants and needs. Without listening, it is impossible to assess that, which makes it difficult to achieve a win win outcome. Have you ever tried this one? A friend or someone close to you came to you, okay, and then he or she opened up a problem, okay, or maybe it's all about a lover's problem, maybe, and then that person actually just wanted someone to listen to all her problems or heartaches, okay? Even though if you will not talk, you will just listen to that person. It's actually communication, all right? It's actually a form of releasing what is inside that person, okay? So that is still part of the types of the communication. So do not what do you call this? Do not just ignore listening because even if you just listen to the person, you are actually helping the person ease the pain. Okay? So you will become Dr. Love. I don't know if Press uh, or the founder will agree to me about that one. Okay, so let's move on. Now, the power of visual communication. Okay, so you're going to talk about visual communication. We are visual society. Yes, correct, right? We wanted to see with our eyes what is happening. Okay, we are a visual society. Think about it. Televisions are running 24/7. Facebook is visual with memes, videos, images, etc. Instagram is an image only platform, right? And then the images we post on social media are meant to convey meaning, to communicate a message, and in some cases, the message might be, look at me. I'm in Italy, or I'm in the Philippines, or I'm in your neighbor's backyard, or I just won an award, okay? Or maybe I just want to flex myself, or I want to flex my new stuff, all right? Others are carefully curated to tug on our heartstrings. Injured animals, crying children, okay? So that is the power of visual communication. By just merely looking at the photo, there are actually lots of meanings, okay? There are actually more to come with visual communication, okay? So that is actually the power of visual communication. Now, Importance of English communication. It is actually futile to let good ideas to be confined in one's head. Won't you agree with me, guys? Right? So, worthy ideas are intended to be shared. Okay? Imagine if Bill Gates kept within himself the idea of personal computers. Diba? So, do you think we will have computers right now? Most likely, if this generation would still be using punch cards and mainframes. If Aesop had kept his stories, there would have been no fables. If Mr. Agapito Flores had refused to share his invention, there would have been no fluorescent light. If authors did not write, there would be lesser chances to education. If I will not be here also to share um, my ideas in this free webinar, then of course, some of you would also be looking for another webinars, right? But not free. So this is a free webinar, and we are very thankful to the ASKF for hosting these kinds of free webinars and the webinars to come. Okay, so make sure to follow them. Now, okay? So, if nobody expresses his skills, talents, or capabilities, humanity will not develop actually. So, one who communicates and does it properly has an edge in terms of self defense. It is a tool for a person to share, be heard, be understood, and be appreciated. It is a mean by which he acquires knowledge, ideas, information, or insights. Through this process, he understands himself, other people, and the community where they belong. Okay, so I can see here that there are also doctors, students. Okay, so what do we do uh, after having these kinds of webinars? Sometimes we get the, what do you call this, we get the materials, and then we also try to share it to them, right? Because sharing is caring. Okay, now let's proceed. In a globally oriented society, the English language is a gate pass to relate with others. It is the link between or among cultures. Just like this one, okay? I can see in YouTube that we have from, what do you call this? We have different webinar participants. We have from Pakistan, we have from the Philippines, we also have from India. So if I'm going to use my common language, Filipino, ganito ako magsalita, hindi niyo ako maintindihan, di ba? So, just like the words that I have just said is, if I'm going to use my Filipino language, I'm going to speak like this, you will not understand me, right? So that is what I have said in Filipino. But my co-Filipino uh, participants here, they understood me. So we use the English language for us to cross that boundary of culture. Okay? Because of the English language, we were able to talk with each other. Because of this English language, you are able to attend this free webinar. Okay? Even though I am Filipino, you are from India, you are from Pakistan, but because of the English language, we were able to communicate. And not just in this webinar, but also in your place of work. Okay? When we deal with clients, when we deal with customers, when we deal with patients, all right? We use the English language if we cannot communicate with them, all right? Okay. So, yes, I will continue. Without the English language, once again, peoples and nations will not understand nor appreciate each other. For as long as it is universal, the English language remains essential to Filipinos and other countries all around the world. Therefore, communication is essential. Okay, always remember that one, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let's talk about effective communication. All right. So, what are the characteristics of effective communication? Several researchers have stressed the importance of communicating one's feelings effectively. All right. Sometimes when we are mad, oh, we say sometimes words that are very, what do you call this? Bad words, right? But sometimes when we are in love, we tend to say more sweet words. Okay. And then you will already see some of the ants are crawling near beside you because you are very sweet to that person. Uh, Kidding aside, this is as important to a social structure as breathing is to life. Okay, so communication is as important as breathing. Okay, so meaning to say, no one can ever live without communication. Do you agree with me, guys? I think you will agree with me. Okay, hence we have to understand the various properties or characteristics that must qualify our communicating activities and processes. A varied set of skills are thus essential. Okay, so we have a list of the characteristics of effective communication. Okay, so uh, we what do you call this? Yes, you can ask questions later on after the presentation. Okay, now first things first, first characteristic, you need to be clear. Okay? You need to be clear. The primary character of any spoken or written form of transmission of information should be to state the message clearly. There are several ways to do it. Okay? So for example, the sentences should be short and simple. Okay? Do not make it very long. Most especially to us teachers, college instructors, or those who are giving instructions, please make it clear. Okay? Please make your instructions clear. Okay? We should prefer the active voice over the passive voice. If we have to convey several messages, then it is convenient to state it in separate bulleted points. Okay, if you because sometimes it is very stressful if you are going to read an instruction that is lengthy, like a paragraph just for an instruction. Oh my god. I think you need to make it clear like a bulleted form, okay? So that they will not be having a hard time in terms of reading. Because admit it, guys, most of us are not really fond of reading a lot, okay? But although there are individuals who are fond of reading more, but I'm also included in those individuals who are not really fond of reading a lot. So I read only the bulleted ones when uh, asking for information. Okay. Now next, we also need to be concise. Our messages need also to be concise. Time is an essential parameter in communications, right? So all of us are very busy, busy individual. The normal attention span is just a few minutes long. If you present your message in a clear and beautiful manner, which is very long, the crux of the report or the message may be lost altogether. Okay, your attention might be lost. Long and lengthy communication is boring and avoided by most. Okay, so to summarize this point, effective communication has to be concise. Okay, next we have concrete. Whatever messages or information or data is present in your communication, it should be well footed. Your arguments should have data that suitably backs it up. A tangible arguments is always easy to understand because sometimes when we try to talk, when we try to talk or when we try to give instructions, and then you cannot understand it, or maybe your students or the one to whom you are talking cannot understand it. The problem is you are going to support it with some information, okay? Because the other person will ask, can you please explain it further? Okay, so we need to actually uh, have a concrete detail. Okay, next. All right. Next is being coherent. Suppose you are telling a story. What if you start from the middle part? Okay. All right. So once again, if you're going to tell a story and then you jump from the middle part, or what if you state the end in the beginning? All right. Of course, the whole point of narrating a story would become vain. Similarly, when you are presenting your communication, you need to be coherent. You need to understand what goes where and what comes then. The key to a coherent write-up is a well-planned, logical, and sequential presentation of the information. The main ideas should be differentiable and they should follow each other in a way that it is a derivative of some rules. So meaning to say, you need to when you give instructions, di ba when we give instructions, we give first what do we need to do, and then after we did this kind of thing, what is the next thing that we are going to do, and then to be followed, so on and so forth until you end. You are going to meet the end. Same with telling the story. So once upon a time, and then you cannot just immediately say the end because you're still giving out the story. So once upon a time, and then after that, what happened in the middle, and then the end of the story. Okay, so it's really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not going to be 5, 4, 3 or 1, 1, 6, 1, 5, 4, something like that. Okay, so that is being coherent. All right, let's proceed to the next slide. Let's be courteous also. Okay, we need to choose your words. Now we know that all business communications, this is very important, most especially for the leaders here, for the bosses here. Okay, this is very important. Okay, we know that all business communications should have some degree of formal flavor. Okay, the presenter should try his best to be honest, respectful, considerate, open, and polite with the receiver of the information. The message, when supplemented with proper care and kindness, will definitely find an audience. Yeah, right? Do you agree, right? Even if you are the boss, but when you give courtesy to your staff, or even though you are the teacher, the instructor, but when you give courtesy to your students, of course they will respect you and they will listen to you. Okay, you will have an audience that will listen to you. A rude presenter will have no audience even if the message he delivers is perfectly effective and important. Offensive words can put off certain factions of people. Okay, so imagine if I am the presenter here and I start becoming racist, right? Okay. Elua said we don't really like reading. Yes, actually. Okay. So what if I am a kind of represent of a presenter here, which is a racist one. Okay. So I will start looking at names. Oh, he's coming from India. He's coming from Pakistan. Oh, some of them are not really good speakers. Something like that. Okay. Always remember that if you are going to be like that in terms of your presentations, then definitely this how many these individuals who are watching here via YouTube, maybe in the end I will just have like how many, 5, 10, 15, something like that, because of my rude presentation, and they are just here because of the, what do you call this, they did not even listen, but they just wanted the certificates, right? So we need to be courteous in terms of giving out anything. All right, so let's continue now. uh, you should take ample care to not to be racist or misogynist or any other bad influence on the audience. Even while using humor, actually I really inject humor, but with my Filipino students. But because I am here, sometimes I am having a hard time in terms of thinking what humor I'm going to inject. But nonetheless, we will just continue. Okay. So humor, you should be very careful that you are not going to be inconsiderate or cruel to anyone, because sometimes when we try to inject humor, sometimes we use individuals. So please, let us choose our words. Let us choose the humors that we are going to use, because we might hurt other individuals. Okay. Now, Okay. Next is listening for understanding. Okay. So communication doesn't only mean presenting or generating information. It also means to receive it. Sorry. In fact, an effective communication channel must have a transducer and a receiver. Half of the faculty for the process is thus a receiver. For the purpose of effective communication, a receiver should have certain qualifiers. Okay, so how can we say that we are good in terms of listening or the active listening? He or she should be able to detect the message which may be hidden deep within the chatter or gibberish, because sometimes when someone wants to talk to you and then they talk about so many things, they are actually just deriving or just running away from the bush. They are just running from the bush, not away. They are just running around the bush, and they cannot actually say the words or the ideas or the topic that they really wanted to say to you. So sometimes you really need to be able to detect the hidden message or try to guess the hidden message. The good listener observes not only what a person speaks of, but also the nonverbal cues. Okay? This is what helps in the complete and full understanding of the transmission. Always always remember this, ladies and gentlemen. A good listener will have some qualities, and he would be emotionally intelligent and mature. Sometimes one person will come to you, and then they will talk about the breakups that they had. Oh, I'm so sad because we broke my boyfriend or my girlfriend and broke up with me because of something like that. And then they are very becoming emotional, and then here comes you also. Because I'm very sad because of your story. I'm also crying. Oh no, my God! So you try to control your emotion because you are actually the pacifier. You are actually the shock absorber. You need to listen attentively, and you need to control your emotion. Although you are becoming affected because of the one sharing to you, but please, we try to control ourselves in terms of our what do you call this? Um, we try to control our emotions. Okay, if we can. If we can try to control our emotions, please do so, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so a good also his understanding of the message should not be influenced by his own personal judgments of either the topic or the presenter. A good listener should be able to filter through all of these limitations and reach the actual message that the presenter is relaying before them. Okay, so that is listening for understanding. Okay, so just like this one, okay, you need to establish rapport, you need to demonstrate concern, okay, you need to just give a little feedback, just for them to know that you're still listening, and then you can also ask questions. You know what? By just actually listening to their problems, you are already a big help because they were able to lose that kind of feeling. It's a relief already for them. Okay, so next slide, please. Multitasking is the name actually of the game these days. So the next characteristic of effective communication is focus and attention. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we now have our phones. Although we have our phones, we also have our tablet, and then we also have our laptop, and then on front of you there is your TV, and then you also, oh my God, that is what happens to us when we are already in the field of work. Okay, so for the students here, these are the things that you are going to encounter. So we are already giving you a piece of advice: focus and attention. So you give your focus to the important things. Okay, now um multitasking is the name of the game these days. However, while receiving or transmitting information, a certain level of focus is essential. Suppose you are in a star communication channel and are relaying information to multiple sources. You are replying to emails, sending emails, and answering phones. Any misplaced communication could be disastrous. Also, excuse me, my throat is already itching. Also, while receiving information, if you lose focus, you may miss the important parts of the message altogether. Hence, we say that focus and attention are very crucial for effective communication. Okay, guys? So we need to have our focus and attention. Okay? Next, we go to um, the last one. Okay? Emotional awareness and control. Okay? This is what I've been telling to you a while ago. Now, this is the last but certainly the most important aspect of effective communication. Again, for most especially for the bosses, to the leaders, to the teachers here, instructors. Okay, so this is very important for us. Um, Emotions will guide you through any situation of life. So I give my salute and I'm very bowed down. Hats off to those individuals who can control their emotions, okay? Even though they are very angry or very tired or very stressed because of what is happening, but still they can manage to communicate effectively. Okay, whether you accept a message with the intention it is relaying with or not depends on the emotional maturity and your emotional intelligence, both while relaying information or while receiving it. You have to take extreme care in keeping yourself in an emotionally stable state. That's why for all those individuals here listening, uh, what do you call this? Who have patience and who can control their emotions. Hats off to you, everyone. Okay. Now, oh, this is my last slide. Thank you very much for actively communicating. But before I end this session, I want to ask yourself now, how is it important for you to communicate, right? Does it solve problems that you encounter? You ask that to yourself, guys. How is it important for you to communicate? Is it important for you to communicate? Does it solve problems that you encounter? How can communication help you in your career? Okay? Or do you think it is possible? Do you think? Do you think, huh? Do you think it is possible not to communicate? You answer that to yourself. With that, I give the floor once again to the host, Miss Aisha. And thank you very much, everyone, for actively participating and listening to my session.
That's amazing. Now, if you have any question regarding about this topic, then please type your question on comment section. Members, if you have any question, members, if you have any question regarding about this topic, then please type your question on comment section.
All right. Coming from, oh, how can we overcome noise in communication? Actually, there are lots of ways in overcoming noise in communication. First things first, you need to identify first what kind of noise is that. Okay, because if you are just talking about noise pollution that is coming from uh, because just like what I said a while ago, there are many kinds of noise pollution. If say for example the noise pollution that we are talking about is all about the people that are talking around you, so of course you need to find a better place, right? If we are talking about internet connectivity, then you need to have a better internet connection before talking to someone else. For cell phones, a good signal. For what do you call this, the for intelligent barriers, say for example, if you're talking to a doctor, and then they are giving advices, um, and then the patient is not knowledgeable about those advices. So the doctors should use words that are actually common to that patient. Okay, so it depends on what kind of noise. So you need to assess the noise first. Okay, I hope I answered that question. For effective communication, okay, for effective communication, we should focus on grammar, or can we speak randomly? Yes, very good question on this one. When we are talking of what do you call this? When because we are talking of effective communication, right? So we did not specify here. You specified about speaking. So when we are speaking, sometimes uh, if you are a grammar police, you can actually check on my grammar as to how I was presenting a while ago. Actually, I am not very confident with my grammar, to tell you honestly, ladies and gentlemen. But for as long as you are being understood by your listener, well, I think that's not actually what do you call this? That will not be a hindrance in becoming effective in the communication. But when we talk of writing, well, we have the time to correct our grammar in terms of our communication. But when we are talking of speaking engagement, so I guess minimal to no grammar would be very good. But once again, just make sure that when you open a topic to a certain individual or to a group of individual, just make sure that the words that you are going to use will match up to their understanding. Just like what I said a while ago, is say for example, if Miss Arshia here is a doctor also, and then I am a teacher, and then Miss Arshia here will use words coming from the medical practitioners. So I think my nose is going to bleed because I did not understand what she is saying. But if she will use words that is common to everyone, so I think I will be able to get her message, and then she will be able to communicate to me effectively, and I'm going to give her feedback as to what have she said to me a while ago, something like that. So I hope I answered that question. Grammar, how important is grammar? Grammar is very important actually, okay? Because grammar, if you are not going to use the proper grammar in when you are going to talk to a native individual, to a native speaker of English, or to a non native speaker of English, ideas might mix up. Okay, so it is very important for us to be able to learn grammar. But just like what I said a while ago, um, minimal to know what do you call this? Minimal to no grammar problems. I think that's very important. Okay, but that is why we are trying to learn English as our universal language. Okay, I know we are having a hard time in terms of learning the English language, but if we have the time, uh, we need to practice, we need to read, and we need to be familiar even with just the basic grammar. Okay, so I hope we will be able to practice ourselves in the English language. Is it true that it okay, and next question, is it true that it promote collaboration and relieve stress? What, effective communication? Of course, yes. It promotes collaboration and it relieves stress. Just like what I said a while ago, if you are an effective communicator, then definitely those individuals listening to you, it might be your students, it might be your individuals, just like me. I am the presenter here, and then when we said that it's time to ask questions and then you did not understand me, you did not understand, I am not an effective communicator, or maybe I am a boring communicator, then technically speaking, you will not collaborate with me in terms of giving questions, in terms of wanting to know what are the uh, what are what are the answers to your questions, just like this one. And also it relieves stress. Why? Because an effective you are not going to have a hard time anymore of decoding what was the message of that the one communicating to you, because it is very clear, because you became an effective communicator. When you are an effective communicator, ladies and gentlemen, in whatever language that you use, whether when you are in Pakistan, you use your own language, but still you are not being able to, you are not an effective communicator because they were not able to understand your message, even if you are speaking already in your native language. That is a problem actually. So let us try to what do you call this? Let us try to use a while ago the different characteristics of effective communication. And I think you got that one. We just need to have practice, a little bit of practice, okay? Even though I am, even me guys, I am a Filipino. We are also having hard time in terms of speaking the English language, but since we practice and practice and practice more, so we tend to enhance our skills also. And I do believe that you can also do better than me. Okay? Thank you so much, Mrs. Saya, for the question. Anything else? Sir, can we communicate without grammar? Yes. The answer is yes. How can we handle destructive behavior of learners so we can communicate effectively? I am laughing because I understand you. Okay. So actually, yes, the very first thing that we need to do is to understand our learners, okay? Because we have different sets of learners in a classroom. So first things first, we really need to assess their learning styles, if how they wanted to learn, and then that's the time that we can communicate effectively to them. Because even though we keep on talking and talking and then they will not listen to us, we need to catch first their attention. Okay, so yes, I understand you, Noor Habibti, that we have students really that are very hard to handle because of their destructive behavior. So first things first, we really need to identify about their learning styles. Okay, so for us to be able to communicate with them effectively, so we need to know our learners first. How can we reduce podium phobia? This is my problem before, but you know, sir, Sir Shabir, um, podium phobia. Before, this is actually my second time that I'm going to speak for ASKF, and you know what? This is what I'm going to tell you. If I didn't try to apply as a speaker, I will not be having this kind of opportunity. So I've already tried speaking engagements with the community first, with my students first. So by that time, I was just like, oh, okay, I feel okay because they are just from the locality or something like that. But when the ASKF already asked for people who would like to talk, so it gave me an opportunity already to try and talking here in the community, okay, in the international community. Okay, so this is actually my second time in engaging in the international community. So the best advice that I can give you is how can we reduce podium phobia is to engage yourself more with your phobia. Okay, but you try to lower first. Okay, you try to talk to the podium with just a little bit of audience, and then increase your audience more until such time um, that you are already okay with that kind of speaking engagements. Thank you so much for that, because I can relate to that question. How would you describe good, effective communication? Yes, Sir Banha. Good, effective communication. Okay, to summarize everything, good and effective communication is just like what I said a while ago. Even if I talk here and then you did not, uh, even if I talk here and then you did not get anything or any idea from me, that is communication because you listened to me or you heard me rather, but you did not you get from uh, from a range of 10 you only got 3 or 4 to 0 ideas. That is communication. But effective communication is when someone is talking and then he got the idea and there is a feedback coming to the sender of the message. That is effective communication. For as long as that person was able to decode the message and understood the message. Say for example, okay, Mr. Banha, please please go to the supermarket and buy these kind of things, okay? And then you will tell me, sir, I cannot buy those things because I don't have a motorcycle. So you did not have the ability to buy those things, but you had the ability to understood my message and my instruction. So I guess that for me is good and effective communication. I hope I answered that question. So once again, by just talking and then you did not get anything, that's still communication because there is a sender, there is a message, there is a receiver, there is a process. That is just communication. But effective communication, you got the message, you understood the message, you decoded the message, there was a good feedback or not even not a good feedback, but there was a feedback. That is good and effective communication. Okay, thank you so much. Next, we have other questions. How can we overcome noise? Okay, we are done with this. We are done with this one. Noise. Okay, what are some examples of noise communication? I already answered that one. What are the greatest challenges to good communication with the use of the English language? Okay, greatest challenges to good communication. The greatest challenge to good communication in the English language is when you do not know the English language at all. Okay, if you are not really good in terms of the English language, then that is a hindrance in your communication. Okay, that is why English language classes have been placed as part of our learning in our studies because we really need to firstly know the English language and before using it in communication in our day-to-day lives, most especially during work. So that is the greatest challenge that I can say that we had encounter. We really need first to understand the English language for us to be able to be good communicators of English. Next. Is there a way we can measure or assess effective communication? Actually, yes, there are lots of assessments in the there are lots of assessments in assessing an effective communication, but one way or one simple way of assessing an effective communication, the immediate way the immediate way is if the person understood your message. That's the very measure, the very simplest way of assessing it. But if you are going to ask me about if there are forms, if there are ways or there is a rubric, there are lots of ways in assessing. You could just search the Google and just type assessment of effective communication. There are lots of things that will go out. Okay. How to enhance our speaking skills? Practice. Like me, guys, like me, okay? I'm a Filipino individual and our language is Filipino or Tagalog. And if I'm not going to use my English language skills, actually, I haven't been in the teaching field for about 6 months because I'm on a study leave. So my English is not very good. Okay, the fluency is not that 100% anymore because I lack already the practice. I was just using my own Filipino dialect language. Okay, so fluency wise, I'm not really that fluent. So as you can see, sometimes I tend to stop. Sometimes I'm very fast. Okay, because my speaking skills is not that fluent anymore. So practice, practice, practice. Read when you read movies in your own dialect, or when you read English. When you listen to English movies, you also need to open the closed caption, okay, or the subtitles, because sometimes there are words that are different in pronunciation and then different in their spelling. Okay, next. What is your advice to those individuals who choose not to communicate their emotions, feelings every time a problem arises? It's actually, guys, it depends on the person if they wanted to talk about that one. But once again, what is your advice to those individuals who choose not to communicate their emotions, feelings every time a problem arises? Oh, you really need to make engagements to them. Okay, you really need to make them understand that we really need to talk about that certain problem for us to be able to arrive to a certain to a certain answer, okay, for us to be able to solve the problem. When that individual choice chooses not to communicate their emotions, feelings, or their problems, so that person is maybe is not yet ready to open up. That's one. Number two, that person doesn't really want to open up. Number three, that person doesn't want to communicate or doesn't want uh to what do you call this, to close the issue. Okay, so something like that. So it's actually upon you on how you are going to deal with it. But you really need to tell that person that you really need to open up for you to be able to close the issue and arrange the issue, because communication is very important. Next. Do we still have time, ma'am? How can we overcome cultural differences in communication? Very good, Miss Eloisa. How can we overcome cultural differences in communication? We need to have a common language that we can use in terms of speaking, and uh, that is why I like what I said a while ago. The English language, just like what I said in my webinar, it is the universal language. That is why uh, English classes has been put in our classes, as part of our studies, because we really need to understand and learn English. Okay, next question: how podium phobia can be reduced while speaking? Podium phobia can be reduced while speaking. Actually, it's a psychological thing, eh. But when you want to reduce podium phobia, if you're not going to face your fears, then you will not be able to overcome it, okay? Because I do believe, just like me, if I am not going to engage, actually I am fear of speaking to many people because I'm very afraid of what will they say to me. I'm afraid of their comments. I'm afraid of my mistakes. So if I continue to rely on those kind of negative thoughts, then I might not be here with you guys sharing. So, what I was just thinking is that I wanted to share, I wanted to help, I wanted to be a speaker because I wanted to help the ASKF family in terms of giving free webinars also. So, if you thought you can do it by thinking of the positive things and removing the negative the negative things in your mind. So I think you will be able to reduce that podium phobia, sir. Podium phobia is also like talking to many people, like in the webinar. Ayun. According to Brian Villarosa Sedoriosa, to overcome podium phobia, just simply practice speaking in front of many people or in community. Exactly. Because if you are not going to overcome that phobia if you're not going to face your fears. Actually. Thank you for that, Miss Sedoriosa. How can I improve my speaking fluency? Uh, you really need to read more English books, or when you watch movies, just like what I said a while ago, you need to watch movies in English with subtitles because the words that are going to be said is not also the same with how it is being spelled. So practice, 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 just like what I'm saying with my students. Language is caught, not thought. So English coaching is necessary or not? It is necessary because if no one is going to correct you, then technically speaking, you will not be able to know if what you are learning is correct or not. I hope I answered that one. Lang, okay. The same question. English Academy, of course, yes, it's still important. Role of grammar in speaking. Just like what I said a while ago, grammar is actually the forms in terms of the sentences or the way we speak. Okay. No, sorry. The forms in the sentences, okay, for us to be able to form ideas. So grammar is very important in the communication. But just like what I said a while ago, for as long as they will be able to understand you in terms of communication. Once again, when we talk of grammar, it depends on what language you are using because all language has their own grammars. Okay, so for as long as they will be able to understand you, then it's a good go.
That's amazing. We are obligated to you for your marvelous presentation and giving us your precious time. This session will be effective for our audience because you shared your intelligible knowledge with us. Dear knowledge seekers, I would love to thank you all from my deep heart for attending today's session. Hopefully, you learned something new and you will implement in your life. Please spread the information with your beautiful friends. Knowledge seekers, you will get free certificate after 2 to 3 days. So please submit attendance form accurately and add your remarks related to this webinar in comment section or attendance form. All members will get certificate via Drive link and link will share in our official Ask Webinars WhatsApp groups. We hope to see you all again next webinar. Thank you so much. Stay happy, stay safe.